Okay, welcome to the meeting. My name is Michael Blair, and I'm going to be sharing the screen, and we're going to be talking about the personal area or the personal website area. Essentially, what I want to do is I want to start off by letting you guys know that there is more than one area to the Credential Manager. You have the public area, which when you get into Credential Manager, you have a little tick down here, and you have activations, which is the the public area, if you will. Anything you add there, if it's not already in the database, will be added to the public areas, the recent and the categories pages, so that other people, if they are also using those websites, they can activate them. But the personal website area works a lot differently, in that when you do add a website here that's not already in the database, it doesn't go anywhere. Essentially, it just goes to your activations. And the personal or the private area also is not filtered. What I mean by filtered is the public area is filtered, and the reason why, by well, let me say what I mean by filtered. Filtered is is a way that we keep out known scams websites like Traffic Monsoon or Zeke Rewards or other websites that are known Ponzi's or known scams. And we have a filtration system so that if someone comes into the public area and tries to add a website that's a known scam or that's in our filter, they will not be allowed to add it. However, with the personal website area, because when you add a new website, it doesn't go anywhere except to your personal website area, uh, that we don't filter any of the public websites. I mean, any of the personal websites. We just filter the public websites. So the personal website area is very private. In fact, when you add a website here in the personal website area, it not only does it not go anywhere, but even me as the administrator, I don't know that it's been added. It doesn't go into the system, so to speak. It just goes into your personal area, and you are the one ultimately that's responsible even for monitoring it. So, and what I mean by that is the public area, all the websites there are monitored by the system. In other words, if a website goes down, if it's no longer operational, we know about it and it's flagged, and I check it. And if indeed it's down, then I remove it from the database. But in the personal website or the private area, that's not true. Ultimately, the monitoring is left up to the individual that's working with that particular website. Now, like the public area, the private area has a lot of similarities. We do show you how many websites you have activated. If you're a free member, you will only be allowed to activate 25 websites, and you'll see that here where it says activations allowed, it'll say 25. I have unlimited because I'm the administrator. And of course, if you upgrade to CM Pro, you will also have activations allowed unlimited. And you have the same pull down that you have in the public site, where you can get to whatever you have activated through the pull down. And you have essentially 4 or 5 buttons that will pop up depending upon what you have inside of the activated website. So also the difference here is that we also have the non-activated block, non-activations block, just below the activations block for the personal websites. Now these non-activations are coming from the public side, but when you activate them here, they're only activated on the personal website area. And I know that's kind of a little confusing, but I'm going to say it again. The non-activated sites are coming from the public area. And so every website that's inside of here has been added to the public area. And as you can see, there's 588 non-activated websites that I have for the personal websites. And if I were to find one, say I wanted to activate cool text here, all I would have to do is click on this button right here. You'll see the pop-up, and I don't even have to put any information in it if I don't want to. I can just click on the save button. You'll see that it went away from the non-activation, and it's in my activations now. There are 4. I'd have to refresh the screen, which I'll do real quickly so you can see that there are going to be displayed 4. So it says 4 now. And that's how you can activate. And it's pretty quick, as you noticed. Now, you can, of course, you can put in your credentials right then and there. I just wanted to show you that you didn't have to put in credentials to activate the site. If you decide you don't want to activate the site and you do have the pop-up in front of you, you can click the X in the upper right-hand corner or outside of the box to make the pop-up box go away, and nothing will happen. You also have another way of activating websites here in the personal website area by clicking on the Add Personal Website. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and that'll bring up an add box, and you have the familiar box here where we're asking you for the domain of the site you're adding. Now, the reason why we're doing it this way is because we want to cross-check the domain with the non-activated websites for this area, so that if you do try to activate something that's in the non-activations, it will pop up. So as an example, let's say I wanted to activate Google. So I key in google.com, and all we want here is just the domain name. No HTTPS or HTTP or www. Just the domain name in itself, which in this case would be google.com. We click on the check domain, and as you'll see, the service name came in for Google. So if I want to put in my username here and my password, I can. I click on Save Credential. It'll refresh the screen, and I just come back to the personal website area. I'm doing it this way instead of the back button so that you can see that it did activate the Google website. So now Google is activated along with cool text, and it's really pretty much that simple. Now here's another facet, and I don't know how you would apply this, but the domain that you add doesn't even have to exist. You could add something that's totally fake. And I have no idea why you'd want to do this, but it's again to show you that the domains that you're adding here are not checked. It is really a private area strictly for you to add websites that you're going to be using. So let's say I just want to, I'm going to make something up. Something that can't possibly exist. And as you see, it's going to allow me to add it. All I have to do here, the only requirement, you see that little red asterisk, that's a required field, is to put in the service name. And so we want the service name to be put in. So we would put in, let's say, X, Y, Z. And I can put in my username and password, my referral URL, and the login link into this added website. I click on Save Credentials. And it's there. I'm going to go ahead and come back to the personal website area so that you can see that it's been added. No. Yeah, there it is. XYZ. I thought I had 6. I guess I only had 5 before. And so if I display it, nothing will show up because I didn't put anything in there. And the domain name here is xxxyyyzzz.talk. And it's not going to render any kind of Whois information because that website just doesn't exist at all. So you can see that you don't even have to put in a real website. And again, I have no idea why you'd really want to do that, but you can if you want to. Now, the other thing I want to show you is that, like the public side, if you do display a website that does exist, like Google, you're going to get domain information, or what is commonly referred to as Whois information. And the Whois information on websites is pretty darn important because it gives you different information that can be very useful. You can find out the domain creation date, and this is the date that the website came into being. So Google came into being in September of 1997. This service created date is the date that the service was created in Credential Manager. You also get the domain registrar, and the domain registrar is kind of important, and the reason why is because if you're getting spammed by a particular domain, now Google doesn't spam people, but there are entities, websites out there that do spam on a regular basis, and if you're getting spammed by a particular domain, and you know who the domain registrar is for that domain, you can go directly to the domain registrar and you can complain about that domain. You can send them a contact request stating, you know what, this website over here, this domain is spamming me. And the thing about that is that the domain registrars, they take those complaints pretty seriously. In other words, if you actually complain about a website, they're going to contact that website and they're going to let them know that they have a complaint and that they better stop doing it. And if they don't, if you complain again, or if they get multiple complaints, they will shut down the website. And the domain registrar has the power to do that. And the reason why is because that's where the domain's address is actually put in. In other words, where the domain is actually emanating from, so to speak, is actually done with the domain registrar. So the domain registrar has the power over whether or not this website is going to render or not. Other information that you can get is the domain location. You can get the domain admin contact, so that you can contact the administrator of the domain. Of course, the domain name, which is the actual domain itself, the IP, and you can get other information as well. But having Whois information on a website is pretty cool, and I've had that throughout the 15-year history of having this system in operation. And the reason why is because I wanted to know who I was dealing with. I wanted to know if they just opened up yesterday. If they just opened up yesterday, what does that say? It says that they haven't been around too long. Doesn't mean that they're good or bad or anything like that, but it does have an impact on how I think about the website. Other things of interest are the things that I've already mentioned, as far as the domain registrar, the contact information, and if they're listing their phone number, you can even get a phone number and actually call them. So you get a lot of important information on the website through the Whois information. And every single website that renders, like, with the exception of your .gov, your government websites, every other website that renders, in other words, it's a real website, will have Whois information on it. And it will be stamped on the record here at Credential Manager, so that you'll be able to, even in the personal websites area, you'll be able to go to websites that actually render, like Cooltext. Click on the display button, and you'll see the contact information for Cooltext. and you'll see that their registration date is 1998. And Cooltext is kind of a cool little place. If you're doing any kind of website development at all, sometimes you want to use cool text or neat fonts, things that are kind of cool looking and that are a little bit different, not your standard fonts. And you can go to Cool Text and you can create them pretty easily without having to do any coding, and then incorporate them into your website. I've used them on occasion in the past, and I even still do from time to time. So they are a pretty neat little website. So again, the different ways that you can activate websites, by that I mean add a website to your personal area, is through the non-activations block, which is on the same page as your personal websites. And also you can click on the add a personal website a link here, a button, or whatever you want to call it, and that'll bring up the domain checker. You key in the domain, and then if it's a new site, in other words, if it's not in here, not in your non-activations area, if it's not a site in there, then you will have to name it, and you will have to monitor it as well, and even put in the login link. So let me see if the login link is okay. The login link on a non-activation, in other words, a public site, is actually controlled through the system. But if you added the site, I hope that's true. I'm pretty sure it is. Let's go to here. Let's do a display. Okay. I'll have to, let me look at something else. I hate it when things don't work. Don't you? Okay, I'll have to let programming know about it. But in the personal websites area, you are responsible for the login link as well. And you can actually manage that by clicking on the edit button. Yeah, there it is. And putting in the login link on your edit box. I guess on the display it doesn't show up. So let me make sure that this is actually working for the other one too. Yep, there it is. Okay, so I made a mistake. I thought it would show up under the display, but it doesn't. But it does show up under the edit button. So it is working. And what I mean by this is that the login link is the link that you use to actually log into the website. So that's the login button there. This login button is tied to the login link. Let me go to a website that I want to see. Yeah, it's even on the non-activations, even on a public site that you activated. So it's even there. You have control over the login link, and that's kind of important because these sites aren't monitored, and it gives you a way that if the login link changes, well, you can go into the edit button and you can change the login link so that it goes to the right place for you to be able to log in to the website. Well, I'm not sure what else really to say about this. You do have the same display personal login information button here. And by that, if you click on the show button, you'll see that the user pass came up for Google that I keyed in. If you click on the hide button, the user pass goes away. And the reason for that is so that you can be able to see your username and your password before you log in. Not every time when you log into a page is your username and password spit out into the field. Most of the time, the browser takes care of that for you. But sometimes, if you haven't been there in a while or you've never been there, through a particular browser that you're on. You may have changed browsers. You may be on a mobile, or you may be on a tablet. So if you're using something different than what you normally do, that browser may not have had that website that you've logged into in its database. And so this gives you a quick and dirty way to display your username and password before you go there. And as you notice, it isn't in dots, it's in English. So you see the username and the password right here. And also, if you click on the down arrow, for everyone that you put a username and password in for, it'll be actually displaying. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.